Hello Year 11 and welcome to your 6th GCSE Religious Studies revision video for Paper 1 Christian Practices. My name is Miss Smith and I'm one of the Religious Studies consultants for the Federation, and I've created this video to help support you prepare for your exam. In order to do this, I'll be using the revision checklist that you have available to you. You can find this checklist on Padlet, in Student Essentials, or you can ask your Religious Studies teacher to provide one for you. This video is going to focus on the topic in Christian practices, the place of mission, evangelism, and church growth. So on your checklist, you will see this section near the bottom. So it says just the place of mission, evangelism, and church growth. We have also created some columns for you to tick off whether you're confident that you know 2 ways of doing something, the importance of doing this thing, and a quote about each of the topics. And the reason for this is because if you are able to do this, you'll be prepared for any 1, 4, or 6 mark question on the exam paper. Plus, you'll be giving yourself some great foundational knowledge to help approach a 12-mark question. So all of our revision is going to be structured around this format to help you prepare for the different styles of questions on the paper. Okay, so let's start with the definition of the word mission. The word mission simply means to be sent out, okay? So sent out into the world, and Christians will be sent out into the world to do 2 things. Share the gospel, so spread the good news of Jesus, or to support people in other countries, okay? So let's expand on these so we know 2 ways in which Christians practice Christian mission. So sharing the gospel, so to go out into the world and tell people about Jesus and to help others that are in need. So it could be to build infrastructure like schools or churches. It could be to provide education or medical support. It could be to dig a well, etc. For our 6-mark questions, we need to know why things are important or why Christians do things. So why is mission important? Why do Christians do missions? So you can use the same information for both styles of these 6 markers. So it helps Christians put into practice the teachings of Jesus. It helps to grow Christianity, but it also is linked to salvation through work. So you get your salvation by doing good things. So let's have a look at our quotes. So the best quote I think to use for mission is the Great Commission. All right, it literally says go and make disciples of all nations. That's what a mission is. But also, because missions often involve helping others, you can use the parable of the sheep and the goats. Whatever you do for the least of one of these, you do for me. And obviously we can also use our faith without works is dead, which is our salvation through works quote as well. Right, let's move on to evangelism. So evangelism is to tell people about Jesus with the aim of converting them to Christianity. So there's lots of different ways that Christians do this. So I've just mentioned a couple here. So they can do it face to face. So sometimes you will find Christians preaching on the street or knocking on people's doors or talking to their friends, that kind of thing. Or there could be a particular evangelism event. So arranging an event to invite people to which explains Christianity. So some of you might know about the Alpha course, which is a 10-week course to teach people about Christianity and then invite them to see if they want to become a Christian. Why is this important? So for our 6 markers, we need to know why it's important or why Christians do this. It puts into practice the Great Commission, but it also can link to church growth, which we're not going to look at next, which is why all of these are together. You can see the link between mission, evangelism, and church growth. In terms of quotes, this all comes back to the Great Commission, the last thing Jesus said before he ascended it to heaven. So because it was the last thing that Jesus said, Christians assume it's probably the most important. So go and make disciples of all nations. So that making disciples, getting people to become Christians, is one of the last things that Jesus said. I think they probably also feel it's a loving action to save people from death, to give people salvation. So you could potentially link it to love your neighbour as well. Okay, and finally, we need to know about church growth. So church growth is trying to increase the number of people in the church through evangelism. Okay, so there's 2 ways that you can do that. One is through evangelism, so converting more people to Christianity, Or you could do that through mission, so going to all nations, so going to other countries and getting more converts that way. Okay. Why is this important? So obviously this is the reason for the Great Commission. It's the reason why Jesus said, go and make disciples. And this is therefore obedience to Jesus' last words. But it also ensures the future of the church. So if the church is not growing, it might be declining, and then its kind of existence is under threat. And so always we are going to link this back to the Great Commission, go and make disciples of all nations. So making disciples causes church growth. So we've got everything there that we need to do our 1, 4 and 6 markers. So let's have a look at some of those exam questions now. So let's start with our 4 markers. So we know that we have to either say 2 similar or 2 different ways that Christians do something. So go on a mission or practice evangelism or work for church growth, whatever it might be. I'm going to model a couple of these for you, but it'd be really good if you could do a couple of the other ones as well, so that you have that practice of doing your 4 markers. And if you just set a timer for 4 minutes, so that you can make sure that you can do this in the correct amount of time. Take your model answers to your teachers to mark and get some feedback on those. Okay. So let's have a look at different questions. So explain 2 different ways Christians go on mission. So one way is by going to other countries to spread the gospel. So we've got our way that they go on a mission, they go to other countries, and then we've put a 2, which is our connective, to say this is a simple explanation to spread the gospel. This is in obedience to Jesus' Great Commission. So we've got our development. A different way is by going to other countries to provide aid. For example, they might help build churches or schools or provide medical care. So we've got a simple explanation, and then we've developed that with an example. So we've got a simple explanation, development, second simple explanation, and a development. So that would get 4 out of 4. You don't need to have full sentences. And obviously here I have mentioned teaching of Jesus, the Great Commission. You don't need to have quotes in your 4 markers, but sometimes you could use them. Doesn't mean you can't use them, you just don't need to. All right, but it's sometimes a really, really good way of developing your answer. You can also do that by doing a who, what, why, where, when, how, example, whatever it might be. Okay, let's have a look at some 6-mark questions now. So here are some possible 6-mark questions that you might get on this topic. And it's explain 2 reasons why mission, evangelism or church growth is important to Christians. Refer to sacred writings. So I'm going to model one of these for you now, but you could maybe practice the other 2 on your own and give those to your teacher. So in terms of your answer, you're always going to have simple explanation development, same structure as your 4 marker. But one of your developments has got to be a quote with the source to get your 5th mark, and then you need to explain the quote and apply it to the question for your 6th mark. Okay, so I'll model how to do that now. So explain 2 reasons why church growth is important to Christians. Refer to sacred writing or another source of authority in your answer. It is important because it puts into practice Jesus' teaching in the Great Commission. That's our simple explanation. According to the Bible, before he ascended into heaven, Jesus said, go and make disciples of all nations. We're developing our answer, but we've got a quote with the source, so we will get a double mark for that. Making disciples means there will be more Christians, so the church will grow. So we are applying the quote to the question. So for that first paragraph, you'll get 4 marks, 1 for the simple explanation, 1 for the development. The development is also a quote with the source, so you get an extra mark, plus you've applied the quote, so you get your 4th mark. It is also important because it ensures the continuation of the church, which is dependent on it growing. Without church growth, numbers will decline and churches will close. So we've got our second simple explanation and our development. So what I really hope is that gives you a really nice grounding in the topic of mission, evangelism and church growth, as well as a little insight on how to answer 4 to 6 mark questions on this topic. Take some time now to set a timer, have a go at some of those other 4 and 6 mark questions, take your answers into school for your teachers to mark, and good luck with your revision.